live. Is that correct, Todd? All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I'm very honored to have 4 local guests that I think the majority of everybody knows. I was doing the math before this, and I think between the 4 of you, you have at least 60 years of combined experience in being leaders in our community.
That makes me feel old.
So I'm only accounting for 3 of those years, so I just
that's not true. So thank you so much.
I've only been gray for a year and a half in that leadership capacity.
Yeah, well, that happens, I guess, with age. But first of all, let's start out with a visual public service announcement. Anyway, my name is Ben. I am the founder of the Seattle Film Summit. And again, I'm honored to have these great guests in front of us today. We have Kate Becker, creative economy strategist with the Office of Dow Constantine, King County Executive. We have Christopher Swenson, acting director at the Seattle Office of Film and Music. Beth Barrett, artistic director of the Seattle International Film Festival. And Amy Lillard, executive director of Washington Filmworks. So thank you guys for being here. Totally appreciate it. So I was thinking about how we wanted to start off today. And like all of us, I was struggling with what the conversation should be. Amy and Kate, I talked to you a little bit beforehand about, I want to acknowledge the problem. Obviously, we're in the midst of something that none of us have ever experienced before. And we're all aware of the economic, the emotional, and the physical impact of what COVID is doing to the world. So I just want to start off with basically acknowledging that we're all a little lost here. We're all adapting to a new reality, 1 hour at a time. And for those of you that are watching this, if you're feeling disconnected and lost, you're not alone. We're all in this together, and what this is about is coming together to help you and to help each other. So that being said, I just want to start off with some simple intros. I'll go one at a time, and I'd love each of you to kind of talk about how it's impacting your work. If you want to talk about how it's impacting you personally, I think that's on the board. And being that you are in leadership positions in our state, kind of how is it affecting your teams right now, and what are you guys doing in the midst of this crisis? So Amy, why don't we just start with you?
Oh, that's so mean. Why me first?
I was alphabetical order, but we could change it up.
Yeah, change it up. I gotta go next. I'll go next. I'm gonna be inspired by someone else.
Well, Beth, you've had probably the most significant impact right off the bat as far as implementing an event. So do you want to start?
Sure. So as many of you know, I hope everyone has heard, we made the heartbreaking decision last week to cancel the 46th annual Seattle International Film Festival, which was an unimaginable decision to make. Along with that, the week prior to that, we were in a position where we had to close the cinemas, all 5 screens of cinemas, due to gathering restrictions. And on the same day that we had to make the decision to cancel the festival itself, we were also put in the really terrible position of having to furlough the majority of our year-round staff as well. As an organization, SIF exists to bring people together around film, and in this time, that is a real challenge. We can't be together in traditional ways, and because of the amount of time, energy, and money that was attached to the buildup and the support of the festival, it was unfortunately the only choice that we were able to make. You know, it's funny. Somebody was asking on one of the many websites that I read now, you know, what that feeling that everybody is feeling right now is, and that feeling is, it's grief. It's grief at not being able to be together. It's grief at, you know, the heartbreakingness of illness and people being sick and people across the world that we know. But it's also the grief of not being able to share our art in the way that we had been 3 weeks ago, or, you know, not being able to create the art that we want to create right now. I know it is all going, someday we are all going to be able to gather again, and everything will be different, and everything will be different. But the artistic base and the arts and cultural core of Seattle will survive because we all believe in it. Yeah, I might not have understood fully the question posed, but it's something that I've been thinking about a lot as we, you know, as we as a staff are wrapping up the festival and making sure everybody knows, but also sort of wrapping up the organization in a way to figure out what is next, and what we're going to do, because, you know, we will be there in some way after this is over. We just don't know what that looks like, and it's hard.
I'm so sorry for you and your team. I'm just listening to you and I'm like,
Thank you.
I didn't know I was going to cry already. But I think,
yeah, I mean, it's hard, and we're all facing it. We're all, you know, all of the creatives and all of the people who care about arts and culture in Seattle, we're all facing it. When people can't go out and see films or live music or theater or galleries or restaurants or bars, and that is such a core part of who we are in Seattle and the Northwest, is those kinds of experiences. And because we all care about public health and we care about each other and we care about the fact that we want to flatten the curve and we want to help this area recover, we can't do that. And so the things that we have to give up as human beings and as part of a cultural landscape is, you know, you get to grieve for it. You get to be sad about it.
amen.
And Beth,
And
we do have a comment from a viewer. Derek Johnson says hello.
Oh, well, hello.
Hi, Derek.
Thanks for joining us. And we're going to Derek sent me one of the bright spots in all this, is there's a lot of creatives sending resources and information already. And I know that we'll get to that in this conversation, but a lot of people are coming up with creative ways to fill that gap that you're talking about, Beth. And I'm excited to talk about some of those later. But Chris, from the Office of Film and Music, why don't you tell us a little bit how that's impacting you?
Hey, Ben. Hey, everybody. Can you hear me okay? It's my first experience on Facebook Live. So it's devastating professionally and personally. I think, Beth, your description is an example of that. I recall, I mean, it seems like a decade ago now, but I recall when we first heard that South by was considering, I think they were the first major event or major organization who were considering shuttering for the year, and it was just shocking even to consider that. And so SIP is our local example of that, and it's and we're starting to see this a lot everywhere. So that is devastating on a professional and a personal level. I think I don't know if it was you who said this, Ben, but it's such a, you know, we're catching up to everything right now as far as professionally and personally in our offices and in our lives. And so it's hard to even ideate on next steps. Like, we want to transition from triage to recovery and start getting creative ideas and work together, but we're still not quite there yet. I was just on a call a few minutes ago with some event organizers who, while they appreciate the looking down the road, they're still worried about June and July on events that they're doing as well. So there's that side of it. I think what is heartening to me is are things like you put together here, Ben, and the group of folks who you gathered here, Amy, Kate, Beth, and I. What that shows is that we're definitely all in this together, and that we're working together to try to answer those questions as fast as we can, just as the information comes in. On a staffing level, it's interesting to see this flow through, just as far as how folks are responding to crisis. Everyone is stepping up, but everyone is stepping up in a different way. And folks are, there's the grieving process through all of this, but then there's also the activation process. So we're hoping to create, at least in the Office of Film and Music, a really safe and protected space to be able to get that work started and done and support the industries that we have. It's also important, I think, for every organization, if you're a leader, or if you have staff, or if you are staff reporting to someone, be really clear about how you're feeling about this. These things are real, and if you are being overburdened in the work that you're doing, or the lack of work that you're doing, because of how this is impacting you personally, look for help within your organization and from the folks that oversee your work, or the folks who report to you. I think is a good thing that's happening, at least on our end.
I didn't realize that actually just the conversation of venting with other leaders in the community, I'm like, oh, it's like reliving the grieving process, but it's like you said, it's totally healthy, and we need to get through this. Kate, at the Office of King County, how are things? I know that you've actually been recruited into other roles during this time.
Yes, indeed. It has been a wild ride. Never did I ever think that I would be a public health officer of any sort. But as you well know, King County is ground zero for the COVID-19 outbreak in the United States. Now, Constantine, my boss, is overseeing public health. And so right there in my office is where everything started generating from, to be able to address this serious threat that we have. So on March 2nd, I was wrapping up a conference that I was co-producing with 207 people here from 78 cities, 24 states, and 5 countries. And I've never been more glad to see our colleagues board planes and get out of here. Because as we were wrapping up this conference, we were also realizing the beginning of the gravity of the situation that was upon us. So I just wanted to make sure they all got home, right? So that we could focus on this. So ever since then, since March 2nd, my primary role has been communication to the creative industries, of course, film and music being front and center in that, along with other creative industries and the arts and culture sector throughout King County, as well as all events over 50, and almost all events are over 50 people, right? So it's been a huge swath of people to try to keep communications going out to, and everything we were working on, the whole trajectory we were on with both our film initiative and our music initiative, had to come to a screeching halt while we address COVID-19 emergency. So I really have been all public health communications all of the time. Had to help a whole lot of organizations and businesses figure out how to comply with the restrictions as they evolve to being more and more restrictive, and then ultimately helping some of them figure out how to shut down. Now I'm working on helping them figure out how their employees access unemployment, how they navigate the landscape, how they figure out future planning when the crystal ball is so cloudy right now, right? Until we know if we can flatten that curve, and until we know how pervasive it is throughout the region, it's very hard to predict the future. So as Chris was referencing with events, and Beth referencing with what SIF coming back and what it looks like, those things are so hard to figure out right now. So I am all in with public health and public health messaging right now, and that is my primary function. And certainly I have some recovery thinking and planning going on with groups of folks, but primary is just keeping this message out there, because we don't know if people are going to cooperate with the governor and Dow's and Dr. Duchin's orders over time, right? People are already getting restless in the first week and a half of working from home and being at home. And in fact, the stay-at-home order wasn't even official until just recently. So people are getting restless, and we've got to do it. It's the absolute essential. And I know we're not trying to talk about COVID-19 throughout this, but that is just my reality right now. And I think that I am in emotional denial because of the absolute heaviness of everything I've had to shoulder with people. And I have to keep that front up to make it into the next conversation to help the next person. And meanwhile, my parents are on day 17 of being trapped in an apartment that they're not allowed to leave, right? And everything's just so wild. But I'm glad we're all in it together. I am so impressed with how community has dealt with this, and the heartbreaking decisions people have had to make in this time are they're insane, and they had to happen so fast. And so many people are just reeling from it. So I think it's more important than ever that we stick together, we look out for each other, that we are perpetually kind no matter what the stress is, and that we really just got to hold together now and move our way through this. So I'm lots of bright light and sunshine, huh? Sorry, everyone.
It's as bright light sunshine as you can get right now, and it's good messaging. Thank you, Kate. How are you holding up, Amy?
Well, just keeping it real. As I'm sure everyone's had these experiences, but my husband is no longer working as the executive chef in the hotel that he was working at. So that's like obviously so many people are suffering, and, I also have a 12-year-old at home. Right? That's super.
Homeschool, yay.
Yay. So, but I think, in terms of the work stuff, I think the hardest thing for me personally is the fact that, the reason why I have done this job for so long is because I care about the people. I go onto a set, or I go to SIF, or I walk into a meeting, and these are the people that I know and that I care about, and that I feel like we take care of in some way, shape, or form, and I feel sad about that. So I'm feeling that in a very significant way. My dad has a phrase that I have adopted during this period of time, where whenever something hard has happened in our life as a family, he always said, you know what, we're going to fall forward together. That's been his phrase. And so I am very much with the amazing work of the people, of the staff that I get to work with every day. We're falling forward together, and that's all about supporting these people that I love and I care about, which is the film industry in Washington. And that's happening in a lot of different ways. We are doing, it's funny, I had a board meeting yesterday, and at the board meeting I said, everything that I told you that we were going to do in December, we're not doing right now. We're doing something completely different. And little did we all know that we would be here in this moment. And yet, as I started talking about the things that we are doing, there's hope in it, right? So some of those things, of course, we're responding to what's happening right now. So things that we have done, which you can find on our website, are we have a document that it's Coronavirus and Washington State Film is what it's called. Super simple. It's just a live document that we update that has information about permitting, that has information from our unions, that has information about all kinds of things. We also are trying to track what the lost opportunities have been for cast and crew and production companies. And so we have 2 surveys that we are asking people to take, and I'll tell you more about why in a second. But then, also we have developed there's many, many resources out there. For those of you that live in King County, we are so lucky here that we have, King County Creative and the Office of Film and Music, the Office of Arts and Culture, because those are incredible resources that are pumping out information constantly. Other jurisdictions across the state, because we work across the state, they are hungry for information and don't have, entire offices dedicated to getting you the information that you need. So during this time, Filmworks is developing a resource as well, which we're actually debuting either today or tomorrow. We have some typos in it that we have to fix, but for, to supplement what's already out there. But in addition to that, we know that this moment is temporary. We're not making light of it, right? Just to give a little bit of hope, and I'm not going to tell you what it is, but we approved an application yesterday for the incentive program for a project that is going to come film in Washington State. I'm not going to tell you anything else about it, but it gives me hope, right? So other things that we're doing right now that I want to share, because I'm hoping it gives hope, is we're redesigning that smaller funding program called the Innovation Lab with our advisor, our Film Leadership Council. That's coming out too. So that's more money and more opportunity. We're doing a newsletter. We haven't had a newsletter, like a regular newsletter, in a long time, and we've redeveloped it. And we're excited about that in response to what we've heard from you before COVID. And then we are also, we have a crew database on our website. We're about to debut a production company and production resource company database as well. So that's going to come out. But I think that some of the most important work we're doing right now is that, as we all know, film and the creative industries in general is not your normal companies, right? It's not your normal line of business. And so we have been talking and working with the governor's office and the Department of Commerce to talk about the unique needs of gig workers and creative businesses. And we are convening conversations and a task force across the state to talk about what is going to go in that package that's going to help gig workers and help creative businesses specifically. So, as we look forward, I know from the people I'm talking to at the state level that people recognize the important contributions that creative people make, not only to the economy, but to arts and culture. And so that's inspiring and that's good, right? And so as we move forward and we fall forward together, then, we are looking at how does Washington Filmworks make sure that film and the creative industries are represented in that recovery package that's going to happen at the state level in some special session when we can all get together again. So yeah, and I just, you asked about staff. I have an incredible group of powerful, amazing women that I work with. And we start our day every day at 9:15 on a call like this. And each day they're bringing their best and bringing their optimism and bringing their just positive energy and vibes. And it's lifting us up so that we can lift you up, right? And so I hope you have a chance to interact with them and talk to them face to face soon, because they're just an incredible group of women. And I will tell you, one of the best things is the virtual happy hour. I'm just volunteering that. You don't have to be a drinker, but grab something at 4:30 on a Friday, get on these video conference calls and have some fun. I know it's so hard, but the people that we work with and the people that we create with are going to get us through this moment so that we can build into what is, as Beth was saying, it's not going to be the same. It's going to be different, and it's going to be better in its own way. So I remain ever hopeful and ever optimistic as we fall forward.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I do love that phrase, falling forward.
Yeah.
Another one that's been in the front of my mind a lot lately is necessity is the mother of all invention. And I think it's an appropriate time that we are evolving in our approach to how we create our art and how we get it out to the world. And it's important that we do things like this and all come together. That being said, I'm looking over here on the Facebook Live. We've got about 50 viewers right now. And I just want to speak to you guys as far as any ideas or questions or even resources that you're aware of. Go ahead and put them in the comments of this live stream. Because on the Seattle Film Summit front, we're obviously, much like everybody else, trying to put together a resource page where we can help people in this time. And one of the things I just wanted to call out, and you're the right audience as these speakers on the Zoom meeting here. Some of you know that I do a day job at the Renton Chamber of Commerce. And so it's interesting from my perspective, from a civic point of view, seeing all the crisis communication and the resources for small businesses, et cetera, flowing up from the county to the state and down to the individual cities, seeing how the cities are collecting and dispersing these resources for their communities. And one of the conversations we had yesterday is the overlap. A lot of the chambers, a lot of the cities are doing the same things and offering up the same resources. And I just want to, we combined as a creative workforce are powerful, and we all have different resources. And I just would encourage us to all be thinking about a plan about how we're not overlapping, but we're supporting. So just keep that in mind as far as when these resources at Washington Filmworks that you're doing, Amy, are incredible. Same with you, Kate. Let's be building a plan falling forward about how we can drive our constituents to a sole place, or basically not duplicate.
Yeah, this is Chris with the Office of Film and Music. We totally agree, and I think that what we're pointing to, it's one of the reasons that we kind of held off, that the Office of Film and Music kind of held off on information sharing, because there's so much developing so quickly. And what we're doing now, there are 3 tiers that we're kind of focused on. One are Seattle specific, and we're pointing to the city's, actually the mayor's office, community and business resource page, which I'll put in the comments here, or I'll send so they can be put in the comments, just for the broad city work. The King County Creative has an excellent handbook that they're developing right now, which we're pointing everybody to for public health and the King County level, and also for creative economy and creative industry resources. Some of that has to be duplicative. They have to pull a little bit from the city as well, but it's in a broader sense for King County and much more comprehensive and focused on creative industries than the mayor's office is. And then as it's being developed, there's going to be a state resource which is going to be developed as well, which we'll point to as well. But I think we're all aligned, Ben, with that comment. There's so much going on that we want to make sure that whatever we share as agencies is really focused and helpful to the industries we serve.
By the way, and I also just want to comment, there's been a lot of questions going around about gig workers and freelancers qualifying for unemployment, right? This is a big one. So the short answer is yes, you will. We're developing a resource right now with Artist Trust and Inspire Washington, which are 2 other statewide agencies as well. So we're connecting with ESD about the details around that. A lot of it has to do with, and I wish I had my notes, there's something called the Disaster Unemployment Assistance Program that gets activated when Governor Inslee was asking, I'm going to go weedy for a second, so excuse me. Governor Inslee was asking that the coronavirus be anointed a natural disaster, which would then unleash something called the Disaster Unemployment Assistance Program, which would make gig workers eligible for unemployment. I believe, although we're going to get to the bottom of this shortly, that has been done. And so we are working with ESD and these other organizations to come out with that one sheet that says, here's what we know. It'll be updated on a regular basis with, all of the information that's changing day to day. but it'll give you the answers that you are looking for. So look for that resource shortly.
Awesome. I just posted in the comments, Four Culture's doing that $1 million relief grants for artists. So that link's on our live, Facebook Live. So check that out. And next week, I think we are going to be interviewing somebody from Four Culture and from Inspire. So stay tuned on that. Todd, I'm not looking through all the questions. Do we have any questions that we need to field?
Well, we've got good news that Virginia, she's from California, but she says they're starting production on a film that is based in Seattle in the Philippines, but they're thinking about coming up to Seattle in the November timeframe. So she's asking questions about how to get hooked up with good production managers and whatnot. Let's see here, just a lot of positive comments. Diana Daughter knows of a large company in the region that is giving out grant money to nonprofits that are serving creatives in the region. So she put her contact information there. She didn't say who it is, but we'll see if she responds.
Can she share that so that we can put it on our resource list? That'd be great.
Yeah, I'm sure she will. And there's just a lot of other folks giving their support.
Cool. Well, I'm going to transition just for a few minutes to our creativity. I loved, Beth, how you were talking about it's like a heavy weight because we do spend a lot of time going out, whether it's concerts or movies, these social events, and there's a grief all alone on that. I have been hearing people finding a way. I think there's somebody on the live chat right now that is launching a couch festival. Mm-hmm. I know people are doing online writing teams and even acting groups where they're all just jumping on a Zoom like this. I'm wondering if you guys have any recommendations or thoughts, or how are you fulfilling your creativity? Because even though you're leaders, I know you're creatives.
I'm too embarrassed to tell you. No, so I have this super creative 12-year-old. And before everything got shut down, we went to an art store and we bought a bunch of art books and canvases, and we're doing that. Like I don't know how good it is, but it's a damn lot of fun.
I have made a lot of beaded bracelets in the
yes.
We're starting to hear from creative agencies and local creatives and production companies inquiring about what's the lay of the land for getting out into the public and just starting filming. We're restricted, of course. We can't issue permission, but for creatives here, for filmmakers, for crew, for cast, for whatever you are doing, reach out to your peers. Start doing stuff. Whether it's, I think there was an article by Lynn Shelton a couple days ago on The Stranger or something like that, talking about how she's working with her peers on creating something that they can edit together mobily, from a distance, so they don't have to do it person to person. So now, in the short term, there's the opportunity there. In the longer term, from the Office of Film and Music perspective, we want to hear from you what you're planning once there's restrictions lift. Don't stop ideating or stop planning just because there are current restrictions. Now's the time to actually start ideating with us, whether it's me or Amy's team or Kate over at the county. That's the time now to do it.
Well, and one thing I'm thinking about is, we're all creative in our fields, and we devote a lot of energy to being creative in our fields. But what if we can use this opportunity to be creative in a totally different field, in a totally different way, that allows us to sort of broaden and to approach problems in a different way. So I'm going to do a lot of gardening and cooking, and I'm not actually going to watch a lot of films because I need to flex a different muscle so that when I do come back to being able to be creative in my field, that, I have different perspectives, and, I'm going to start making these little terrariums. I used to make little terrariums with tiny little gnomes and put them in like recipe boxes and things like that. Back, when I was very underemployed. And I miss flexing that muscle. And, is this an opportunity for all of us to flex different muscles, to not just look at like, how do I pivot slightly within my field, but rather how do I broaden my field out to incorporate all of these different things? If you don't like to cook, maybe find a recipe and try to cook it, and just expand.
I love that.
I confess that the most creative thing I have done since March 2nd is merely to make another PowerPoint. For near daily presentations, and even those are not very creative. So I will get to that, but I have just so felt like there's not a moment to waste right now in making sure that our community understands what's happening. So I haven't been focused on creativity at all, and I can't wait to get back to it. And I too will be having a great garden this summer.
Yeah,
I did get everything I needed for serious gardening before everything shut down, or before we weren't supposed to be going out to the hardware store anymore. Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted someone, I think.
No, you're fine. I think that just speaking to your point, Beth, it is a very interesting thing, a dynamic that's happening. If there is any sort of silver lining in all this, is it does feel like the world has stepped back and taken a collective breath. And even though we're trapped inside with our families, I know personally, there's a part of me that's thankful, because especially my kids that are 8 and 12, and time goes back so fast when you're a parent. And I'm looking at it going, I don't know if I would ever have slowed down and taken the time that we're taking right now to have, breathing and listening to their ideas and exploring new ideas together. So that's an interesting dynamic that's kind of a side product of all this.
It's from a family perspective as well. This is the first time I have experienced my 15-year-old walk up to me with his Xbox controller and say, "Dad, I'm bored with this." Seriously, we've been doing that family time is super, super important. We've been doing, he's 15, so we're doing a lot of driving in parking lots that are very empty with us nearby. So that's a good thing. My daughter, who is back from, who's out home now from college because of this, has done, I think, about 15 puzzles and has cleaned 4 of our rooms and started on the basement. And relish those times too. It's the opportunity that hopefully won't come back, or not hopefully, but may not come back in this way.
True. So where are we at? 12:44. We're right on time. I'm curious, as far as we as the community and the constituents, I know that you guys are frontline, right? Especially Kate, because you're not just frontline creative right now. You're frontline public health. What is the best thing that we can do to be supporting right now? And I know you guys are falling forward and making it up hourly, as we all are in our lives. But if you had a collective piece of advice for us, how do we support what you're doing?
Well, around public health, I think you all know, staying at home, planning your shopping trips carefully, have gloves, go late at night or early in the morning when there's not a lot of people around. Plan so that you don't forget to get the quart of milk, or you don't forget to pick up that thing that you need, but you really have your list when you go, and you are very directed about where you're going. Truly avoid people at the grocery store if you can. And the clerks appreciate it when you do. They are being potentially exposed by every person who comes by. So gratitude for our grocery clerks who are out there on the front line, and just trying to make your own plans accordingly. It is okay to go outside. It is okay to walk, run, bike ride. It's all about keeping your distance. This freaking virus, they're not even sure exactly how it transmits right now. They know some ways it transmits, but it does appear that it may have an airborne tendency to it to remain in the air, which means everywhere is dangerous, right? So just be as careful and as premeditative I'm not sure what the word is that I'm looking for, but plan your trips accordingly when you're going out. Be careful and find a way to try to entertain yourself while you're home and your family, just to get through it. And we're all going to be way more savvy about virtual conferencing by the time we get through this. So yeah, it's my best advice. Oh, and stay tuned in to new alerts and that kind of thing. If you're not signed up for the 911 alert system, you certainly should be, so that if there's anything serious breaking, any big news breaking, it will come across the alert system. And don't hesitate to reach out, particularly all of you in the creative industries. If there's anything I can do to help you, that is my job. So please reach out.
I would I'd follow that with I really like the conversation here, kind of the silver lining conversation. This is unprecedented, and people respond and react and deal with crisis in different ways. So my thought is always, just everybody be kind to each other, be really supportive and understanding that while you may be at a certain stage, somebody else who you're working with or along with may not be there yet or may be ahead of you. So bring love and patience and respect to everything, and support as well.
Amen.
I think what I would say is, as we work at the state level to what goes into that recovery package, what do you need, right? So as we have these conversations in communities across the state, like themes will arise of what the creative community needs. What do you need? That's what I need to know. So my email address is amy@washingtonfilmworks.org. Please reach out, let us know. And as we identify those themes, we'll figure out how best to get that incorporated. The other thing is, I would say is, this is tough, it's that groundswell of emotion, right? Like one day you're fine, and then like the next day you're like, what the, right? So I would say, reach out. You are not alone, right? If you are suffering or you're feeling alone, reach out to people, because people feel the same way. So here comes my 12-year-old, by the way. And, just we're all in it together, right? That's how Kate and I and Chris have been signing off on our emails, like we're in it together. And so don't be afraid to show your emotional quote unquote weakness, because we're all feeling it.
And Amy, we did have a question for you from Brad Fox. He asked, there's a little confusion about the date when the survey closes on the website. When is that actually closing?
We will continue to keep that survey open for as long as people are taking it. So go ahead and take both those surveys. There's two. There's one for lost wages for cast and crew, and the other one is for production companies and production resource companies.
So again, I've said this already, but I would encouraging everybody who's viewing this to please, on all fronts of the topics that we're talking about, creative ideas about how you're entertaining you and your family during this time, resources, innovative things that you're doing. We're going to compile all these. We'll share them with our leaders here. We'll also put them up on the Seattle Film Summit page. But I really want to know what everybody's doing. I know that my personal therapy, I started a Zoom with friends. We call it Shots and Thoughts. Granted, you get intoxicated really quickly because there's lots of shots and lots of thoughts. But I'm going to try for my kids an online, a treasure hunt. So basically, you get all these people and you say, hey, the first one to find a plaid elephant in their house gets 5 points. So trying to get the kids together and kind of playing online. So I just want to know all your thoughts and ideas. So keep posting. So we got about 9 minutes here left, and I would just, I'd love to hear some just closing thoughts. You guys, thank you so much. Your comments and your thoughts today have meant a lot to me personally, and I can only imagine it's affected other people too. But is there anything closing out that you want to say or talk about?
I guess I'd pose the question to keep it light. What are the shows, whether it's on Netflix or Hulu or Disney Plus, what are you binging and watching when you have your free time?
I revisit The Mandalorian, number one, especially the finale. The finale is unbelievable. This is me personally. Second, I'm a little disappointed in Westworld season 3 so far. They're doing weird things. I don't know if I like it yet. There's only 2 episodes in. Also, if you have HBO, Curb Your Enthusiasm is an excellent season. They just wrapped up, so that would be great to. That's a recommendation for binging as well. It's 3 thoughts.
We are revisiting Schitt's Creek for the 100th time. We have started over, and because it is exactly what we need right now.
Amen.
I've heard that from other folks too.
Okay, so this is me, just bring it and be real. My brother is an actor. His name is Matthew Lillard. He is on an NBC show called Good Girls, which is on its 3rd season, and I have never watched it.
No.
So I decided now would be a good time so I could, Matt has a tendency when I call him like, hey, what's up? And he's like, have you watched Good Girls? And I say no, and he hangs up on me. Trying to repair my relationship with my brother. So
You're up, Kate.
I'm telling you, I'm no fun right now. The only television that I watch when I leave my studio, which is a separate office that's outside of my house, I have this little cabin studio. As you can see, it's a little cabin like behind me. I go inside and I watch the national news to see what bad information is coming out from the federal level that we need to correct locally to make sure that people understand what's really happening. So I'm not a lot of fun right now, but I will be down the road. Ask me in another couple of months and I'll tell you what I've been watching.
Schitt's Creek. You should start watching Schitt's Creek.
Schitt's Creek.
Thank you very much, Beth.
Very, very
Also,
appropriate.
if opportunity presents itself, I just want to say handbook.kingcountycreative.com. That is where you will find the COVID-19 handbook for the creative industries.
Okay, thank you. Could you, where do I find that again? So we can post.
Handbook.kingcountycreative.com.
Todd, I don't know if you see this, but I added that plus a couple city links as well to our chat here. I don't know if that's shareable on the Facebook feed, but that's included in that.
Oh, thanks, Chris. I'm not
Awesome.
seeing
We
it.
are sharing those.
Yeah, it's in our Zoom chat, not in our Facebook chat, but we'll get it transferred over. Thank you, Amy. You know what? Actually, Amy sent over some great questions that I would love to close out on because they're positive.
Thanks.
And we have touched on it a little bit, but before we close out, I'd like each of you to just say what makes you feel a little optimistic in the moment, and or what's the first thing you're going to do when we leave lockdown? Let's start with Amy. It's your question. I'm starting with you.
So the low-hanging fruit is I am really excited about getting my hair cut. But then I am, so if I look at, I'm really optimistic about the fact that as soon as we get out of jail, so to speak, film is ready to go, right? There are very few industries that can just ramp back up almost immediately. And so I'm looking forward to giving away our money. I'm looking forward to visiting our sets. And I feel like as soon as we can start again, film is going to be one of the industries that benefits because we can just get in there and go. So that's what I'm feeling optimistic about.
This is Chris. I would echo that, and Kate can echo this too, as far as her work in relationship with the event industry and the venue industry. It's going to be a much slower path for them, and film is really going to be on the forefront for this. That's why we're open for business to ideate right now as far as permitting and stuff like that, because we know that flood is going to come back. So that's really heartening and exciting to me. And Amy, I actually got my haircut the day before the shutdown, so I was lucky on that.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
an interesting tidbit, in Italy, the #1 trending search on Google has been how to cut your hair at home.
Ooh, that's scary.
That's funny.
So one of the things that I've been so inspired by in this is both my colleagues who have just reported for duty in a crazy kind of way to do whatever needs to be done. So many people's jobs shifted to be frontline in helping figure out how do we build out our medical front to expand our medical capacity? How do we launch this whole communications effort? How do we negotiate real estate in quick time to secure more facilities for more people? All those kinds of things, but everyone has risen to the occasion to do work that is not their work. And simultaneously, the way this community has responded has been so unbelievably inspirational, as they've had to make these really painful decisions. But there's something about the fact that we are all in it together and that everyone's having to make grave decisions that has really sort of brought out the best in humanity as they struggle with having to do these things. So I have just found that to be incredibly inspirational and also reassuring that we are going to get through this because of the tenacity and the integrity of everyone involved in making these hard decisions and carrying a piece of the weight for them and for their teams. And people are amazing, and we're going to survive this. We just aren't sure exactly what that path to survival will look like, but we are truly in it together. And I know that this community will rise and we will find our way.
I keep thinking about weirdly forest fires and just fire in general. Because what happens after fire is things grow. New trees come up, new plants come up, things, reset themselves and come back up. There's, the phoenix rising from the flame. When things happen, and this is horrible around the world, but out of it comes new things, and people working together and people supporting each other and sort of resetting a little bit. And so I am incredibly optimistic to see all of the new shoots and all the new tiny little trees coming up out of that forest and seeing all the phoenixes, because it is going to be like a sky full of phoenixes when this is over. It's actually going to be incredible.
Agreed. Lynn Bohart sent me over a HuffPost article, and I'll put that in the Facebook comments. But I don't know if any of you have read it. It's entitled as Coronavirus Hits Hollywood, Movies Find a New Path Forward. It's a great article kind of talking about the impact on the industry, but echoing what you're all saying at the end of it. It says, once we get through this, you are going to have a population that needs content more than ever. Mm-hmm. And so, and that's going to feed our creative industries. And above and beyond that, what we talk about in the Seattle Film Summit team is there is some messaging that we as a creative economy and community need to start wrapping our brains around, which is right now, people like Kate, or definitely the medical staff out there, they're the frontline soldiers. But when we get through this, the creatives are going to be the frontline soldiers to get us back to where we were at in this new phoenix of an era. So we just have to stay together for now, be polite to everyone, and give out love. Absolutely. We are at 101. So I want to tell everybody who's watching and who does watch this, we're going to do this every week at noon. And so I think there's all kinds of things we can do with this. We're going to bring on more speakers, but we can view trailers and talk through the trailers. We can view your content. You know, there's so many things. So if you have ideas, please, again, put them in the comments for us. And to you four, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your candid feelings. And I think as a community, I want you to know that we're here for you too. So don't hesitate to reach out to us. Don't wear this burden all by yourselves. Now's the time for us to all come together. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank you
putting
all.
this together, Ben.
My pleasure. And obviously, as information unfolds for you guys, please don't hesitate to use us as a platform for getting those communications out. Chad, Mr. Producer Man, anything else I need to cover?
I think that sums it up.
All right, everyone.
I have one thing I have to say before we go, if I could, which is hat tip to my fabulous communications team, Andy Fife, Lee Sims, Caroline Dodge, and Aaron Starkey, who are all a part of getting this work out to you all. I had not mentioned them, and I feel like I should. So thank you for letting me add that in at the end. I appreciate it.
Of course.
And thanks to all of our lovely viewers for joining us today.
All right. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Wash your hands. Stay 6 feet away. Love you guys.
Bye.